loves, welcome to my channel, Life with Angel. I hope you're having a great day today. Remember, if you like this, give me a thumbs up and subscribe. Today I'm going to talk about my health journey and what that looks like. So some of you know my husband, Dr. David Jockers, and a lot of you are followers of him. He's a brilliant doctor, functional medicine doctor. He's a chiropractor, and he knows a ton about helping people on their health journeys, and you should definitely check out his website if you haven't already done so, drjockers.com. But a little bit about my journey. So as a little girl, I've always loved vegetables and fruits, and I've always been conscious of wanting to be healthy for some reason. It's kind of been a part of who I am. My mom said the only food I wouldn't eat as a baby was beets. Everything else I would eat, and I think that's kind of funny. It wasn't until I was in my 30s that I finally tried beets, and now I actually like them. So I was always interested in health. I would try my best to do what I thought was healthy. I began to struggle a little bit with my self-image and my body and my weight. So yes, in middle school I became a little bit self-conscious, and somewhere along those lines I heard of Richard Simmons. I don't know if any of you are old enough to remember Richard Simmons, but I learned that he had a nutrition program, so I got that. I don't know if I paid for it or if my mom did, I don't know, but it had these little cards, and it taught me to be conscientious of what I was eating. So if I ate a vegetable, I'd get a vegetable card. If I ate a carb, I'd get a carb card, etc. And it helped me become more cognitive of what I was eating. So from then on out, I've always been aware of, am I eating vegetables every day? Am I eating protein every day, etc. So I've always cared about it. I was kind of picked on when I was in high school because I would eat a salad, and I would try to eat the more healthy choices. I would oftentimes pick the baked chips. But it was usually coming from a place of vanity. I just wanted to have my body look the way I wanted it to look. I struggled with an insecurity as far as my body image goes, and that's the predominant driver for me, was how my body looked. And when I was 18, I was diagnosed with ADHD. Now in hindsight, I know that if you don't exhibit the characteristics of ADHD as a child, then you're probably either wrongly diagnosed or there's another underlying issue going on. And so with all that said, we did the best that we knew to do, and I was given a prescription drug to help me with my focus and my concentration abilities, which it did. I took Adderall. So from the time I was 18 up until I was in my early 30s, I was taking Adderall to help me. Now, there were some gaps where I didn't take it, but for the most part, I was taking Adderall during that time frame. So I had the ADHD, and I had also, as I was getting into college, around the time of like 2021 or so, I was diagnosed with endometriosis. And I had surgery to remove some of that. I had a laparoscopy done, and it was like my period cramps, my menstrual cramps were excruciating to the point where I wasn't able to function in a normal way on the days that it was worse. I was popping ibuprofen like it was candy on those days. Like I would take the maximum amount that I could take every 4 to 6 hours. I was very much dependent upon the painkiller drug. And there were times when I would also have the prescription strength of it as well. So I had the ADHD, I had endometriosis, and along with the endometriosis, I was told that I might have a hard time conceiving, because sometimes it is hard to conceive when you have that diagnosis. So that, obviously, I was still very young, I wasn't married, I wasn't looking to conceive, but I was thinking down the road, oh no, what's gonna happen? So it was, one cool thing is during that time, God put a passion in my heart for adoption, because I didn't know if I'd be able to have kids or not biologically. So ever since I was in my early 20s, I've had a heart for adoption. And now, even though I have biological kids, I would love someday to adopt. I think it's a beautiful thing. But I digress. Back to my health journey. So along with the endometriosis, as I got into my adult years, probably in my 20s, late 20s or so, I started battling depression also, off and on. And so I was given, not consistently, but there were several times when I was prescribed antidepressant medications. One was Celexa and one was Wellbutrin. They're two different, they both work in different ways. But that's a little bit about my history. I cared about health, it mattered to me, but at the same time, it was mostly because I wanted to feel like I looked beautiful. So I found a lot of sense of identity in how I thought I looked. So throughout all this time in my life, I was a follower of Jesus like I am today. And so I always tried my best to look to God and in prayer, and I would read my Bible, and I tried my best to fight the depression or to just be a better person. And it was very hard when I felt like my life was spiraling out of control, and I felt like, why are these spiritual practices not getting me the help that I need? Again, I had been taking Adderall for so many years, and it did help me go through school. It did help me focus. I was able to graduate from college one semester early. I was also able to get a master's degree in theology, which is extensive research and writing and studying. So I was definitely able to be productive and achieve great goals. But at the same time, I grew to be dependent on the drug of Adderall in order to achieve these goals. And I realize now in hindsight that I firmly believe that God has created each of us with gifts, with skills, with passions, and not everyone is called to be super great at focusing. Some people are great and called to be creative thinkers. Some might be great at multitasking. Some might be great with communication skills. And some might be great with details. For me, taking the drug really changed my personality in some ways, and I wasn't as nice of a person. I became someone that I didn't really like, and I think that contributed toward my depression. And at the same time, I was afraid to stop taking it because, number one, it helped me stay thin, and number two, because I was always worried about my self-image, and number two, it helped me get things done. And I was afraid to be a failure if I stopped taking it. So I got into this vicious cycle, and my body became dependent. And where I used to take a certain amount of Adderall dosage, now I had to take it more frequently in order to achieve the same effect. So I ended up needing to go to a drug rehab center. And that's a story that no one wants to tell. That's not something that anyone is proud of saying. It feels embarrassing. But I'm at a point in my journey, I'm actually 7 years exactly removed from that time in my life. And I'm at a point now in my journey where I'm kind of proud of my history. I'm kind of proud of it because I know if God could do this in my life, God could do this in anyone's life, and God is a redeemer. So in my life, I had to hit some rock bottom. Again, I was battling depression. I got to a point in my life where I didn't like myself. I had friendship issues, and obviously I can't go into all the details. There's a lot of depth here that I'm not discussing, but as far as the overview, I hit an all-time low, and I went to go seek help at New Method Wellness, which is in California. It's just north of San Diego and just south of Los Angeles. So if you or someone you know has issues and could use some help, that's a great facility. It's a great place. For me, I was able to get off of the Adderall, and for the first time in my life, I was able to really get in tune with who am I and who has God made me to be. And I was able to, I think Adderall, unfortunately, I think taking it all those years, I think it hindered my emotional and relational development and maturity as a person. So I think for the first time I was able to face some emotions that had been stuffed down inside of me for many years. And I had some forgiveness that I needed to work on, both for other people who had hurt me and also myself. And I was able to get off of the antidepressants as well. And during this time, I learned the beauty of the fact that our minds and our bodies are integrated. We're holistic people. We're not just mental, and we're not just physical, and we're not just spiritual. And so I think a lot of my life and my journey, I tried just to use the spiritual disciplines and the spiritual component to help heal my physical and my mental. And for me, it wasn't enough. Not that God can't use just the spiritual. For me, it wasn't enough. And just focusing on trying to heal the mental, what I realized is that's not necessarily just enough, because we're holistic people that are integrated. So for me, that was the beginning of this awareness in my journey, is like we're integrated people who need more than just the mental or just the spiritual. We're also physical bodies as well. So for me in my health journey, getting off of the Adderall was very helpful. I still had the ADHD though, right? So the Adderall never helped take away the problem, it just masked the symptoms. So I still had the symptoms, and I had to learn how to deal with that. Same with the antidepressant medications. They don't take away the problem, they just mask the symptoms. So I still had these issues that I needed some help with. And the endometriosis, same thing. That was still going on all this time, the really terrible cramping. But I continued to use the ibuprofen and painkillers to mask those symptoms. So after hitting this rock bottom place out when I was in California, I actually had this rock that I went to at Laguna Beach. And that's where I felt God spoke to my heart and said, Angel, I am your everything, and you are my best. And that was the most pivotal moment in my spiritual pilgrimage where I really surrendered my whole being to God. I was already a follower of Jesus. I like to say Yeshua. Yeshua is what Jesus would have been called by his people back in the day, because Jesus is an English word. I digress. So anyways, that's when I really surrendered my all.
Mystery, and if we scared